Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President, Samuel Ronan, speaking, and today I am addressing you thusly. We are entering an unprecedented era of American history. We are no longer approaching fascism. We are in the consolidation phase of fascism, and that could be not more evident than with the actions being taken by this administration at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, and the actions by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, calling a military commander all call for unknown reasons. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about fascism, when we talk about corruption in society, when we talk about the disillusionment and disenfranchisement of the citizenry, the consolidation of power by this government, by this terrorist regime, we are talking about the manufactured consent for deploying a secret military police within our nation's borders. In our time, it is called ICE. In previous times, it was called the Gestapo. Instead of the Nazis going after Jews, it's Americans going after immigrants, going after Venezuelans off the coast in international waters. It's Pete Hegseth demanding loyalty from commanders and threatening to purge those who do not bend the knee. It is a president that will go on the international stage and decry our allies, threaten our allies, and then brag about things that he has never accomplished and never will, threatening the solvency of peace in our time, in our world. And these are things that cannot stand. These are manifest declarations of terrorism, of corruption, dare I say it, fascism. And we have seen many such examples in these past few 8 months. But this month, September, has ushered in unprecedented levels of corruption, of naked, belligerent abuse of power, of threat of the use of force, threatening our citizens, our states, our cities with martial law, violence through that same secret police against all citizens who dissent against this terrorist regime. To be Antifa is now to be designated a terrorist. Well, let me be clear. I, Samuel Ronan, declare that I am the president of Antifa. And if you want to go after Antifa, you have to come after me first. All my other brothers and sisters who claim that they are Antifa, everyone who claims that they are against this terrorist regime, who share these posts, who go on live and say, I am Antifa, and share these silly little memes saying, oh, the meetings are canceled, we ran out of cookies, we ran out of snacks. They are all trying to hide the fact that I am the president of Antifa, that I lead the people of these United States in anti-fascism, in a unified movement that brings us all together for a common cause, that cause being against this tyranny and oppression, the very thing our Constitution was formed and created to protect against, the very foundations of the establishment of our own great nation. And make no mistake, our nation is great. We have committed great crimes and great atrocities, but we have achieved great things, great peace, great prosperity. And it is through these great acts that we have become the nation that we are today. And that greatness is no more greatly defined than through the diversity of our people, of the many cultures and backgrounds and beliefs and values that make this country what it is. It is why our nation's motto was E pluribus unum, out of many one. It is why to be an immigrant, to be the melting pot nation of the world, is to be our strength. It is to be American. And with these acts being committed by this terrorist regime, with MAGA, with We Are Charlie Kirk, with these acts of atrocities committed by ICE, make no mistake, violating our 4th and 14th Amendments, eliminating due process, threatening the First Amendment, the right to free speech, the right to protest, the right to dissent against our government, and yes, the silencing of journalism and reporters. These are all the hallmarks of a fascist regime, of a tyrant, of an oppressor. The very things our Bill of Rights was established to prevent and to deny, and yes, fight against. So let me be clear. I am declaring war against this nation, against this terrorist regime, this Trump administration. They are no longer a lawful body. They have turned the United States of America into a rogue state. And I no longer recognize this administration as sovereign. They are no longer the legitimate leadership of the United States of America. And I declare my administration to be the only lawful administration in this country. And I call upon all countries of the United Nations to disavow Trump and his administration for their myriad crimes against humanity, the United States of America, and democracy. Thank you all for listening to this message. We will now move forward to the stream after a brief break. Once again, my name is Samuel Ronan, and I am the president of Antifa. Welcome back, my fellow Americans. I appreciate you and your patience while I gave that address and got ready for the stream. The stream is what, we're here for, is it not? But truly, really and truly, I cannot state strongly enough the necessity to decry this administration, this terrorist regime. That is exactly what they are. When Pete Hegseth called every commander to come to Virginia, while this administration is consolidating its power and spreading more misinformation and lies, and threatening citizens for resisting and dissenting, there is only one possibility that this act could be, and that is to consolidate military power to finalize the transition into fascism. Make no mistake, we are a fascist country as of, well, it wouldn't be right now. We've probably been a fascist government for probably 2 to 3 months now, with the erosion of due process. That would have been the first sign that we were no longer a democracy. When due process went out the window and we accepted that and didn't immediately run into the streets and overthrow this administration and demand their arrest and trial, we lost our democracy. Now, that being said, there was always that possibility that maybe this thing or that thing or this incident would have caused the general strike, much like what happened in Italy. Italy went on general strike, shut down their government, and lo and behold, even their right-wing president sent a naval vessel to aid the flotilla on its way to Israel. Well, rather, on its way to Palestine. My point being, folks, that if we want another president, if we want elections, if we want to remain the United States of America rather than the combined land of Trump, or Trump land, or MAGA land, or whatever it is that the final solution is for this administration, we're going to have to be bold in our actions. So let me be clear. We are the resistance. We are Antifa. We are anti-fascism. And although most people may not recognize Antifa as anything other than a symbol, a name that is associated with left-wing extremism, thanks to our complicit journalism and news media, it is, in fact, an acronym that stands for anti-fascism. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I can only assume and hope is our standard belief that we are against fascism. So, with today's stream, we are definitely going to highlight many of the atrocities that have occurred in just the 24 hours, no less. And then reiterate some of the stories that have happened in the past week as well, such as Spain and Italy sending naval vessels to aid the flotilla on its way to Palestine. But I would have been remiss if I did not take this opportunity to disparage and vehemently condemn Pete Hegseth's call for all military leadership to assemble and bend the knee to this administration. That is not who we are, and that is most definitely not the nation that I swore to protect and defend, and whose uniform this represents. Right, no, that's exactly what's about to happen, Simply Steve, and we are not going to tolerate it. I'm not going to tolerate it. And quite frankly, it seems like this might have to be our standard template background. Instead of, President 48, it might very well have to be this, because, I mean, how absolutely absurd is it that we are dealing with the kind of blatant, overt corruption of demanding all military leaders to assemble in Washington or Virginia, wherever it may be. We'll cover that in the video. While ICE is being targeted by anti-ICE shooters, and this FBI is belligerently manufacturing consent and evidence that is in no way, form, or fashion indicative of anybody who would be left-wing, because no left-wing or whatever try and attack an ICE agent and hit detainees instead, for one. And for two, we would never say anti-ICE. We would say fuck ICE, because fuck ICE. So, with that being said, let's get into the stream. If you missed my initial address, please, by all means, go back and watch it. It is definitely something that is perhaps a bit long overdue. So that's exactly what we're starting off with, and then we'll go through our normal...
Stop letting them increase your rates.
What do you call that?
I used to let them raise my
normally
car insurance
scheduled
every
program
year until I found this...
The Pentagon has summoned the military officials from around the world for a gathering in Virginia. Now, according to the Washington Post, even the top generals and their staff don't know the reason for this meeting. Now, according to reports, the highly unusual directive was sent to virtually all of the military's top commanders worldwide. Now, the directive was issued earlier this week as a government shutdown looms, and the Trump administration had earlier announced plans to undertake a...
It's also an extremely dangerous thing to do, to put all of your military leadership in one area. If a country wanted to cripple American military power, all they would have to do is attack this location with all of America's leadership, military leadership in it under one roof. It's unprecedented because it's extremely stupid and extremely dangerous to do this. I couldn't find any U.S. mainstream YouTube channels reporting on this. Shocking. Thinking about that and doing it publicly, right? If you wanted to do a military commander's all-call, you have the SIPRNet, which is the secure internet. There's the military internet, generally. I think that's the NIPRNet. And then SIPRNet is where you actually have to have classified access. It is a significantly more secure internet protocol. And every single commander, especially at the general staff, flag staff and above, they definitely have access to SIPRNet. And although they'd be all over the world, you know, the generals in Okinawa would be waking up at, 2 a.m., while this meeting is happening at 2 p.m. or whatever the case may be. That would be the way to hold a secure all-calls generals meeting by the Secretary of Defense to address every general, all and admiral, of course, at once. That's how you do that, to also ensure the security and safety of the staff, for one, but also without completely disrupting the leadership and command structure of each and every single military installation across the globe. Because now you're transporting staff officers, you're transporting a shit ton of them all at once, and now you have to make sure that the chain of command is unbroken in the bases and locations where they are being left behind. Like, it's unprecedented because of, one, the logistics nightmare involved, the inability to hide that this is even happening, and then the fact that you are dramatically endangering the leadership of the entire military forces by taking these commanders, thousands of years of experience worth of military leadership, and placing them all at once. Even the flights themselves could be targeted by our adversaries. Like, there is no circumstance, no situation in which this would be a good idea. None. Not in peace and most certainly not in war. So, carry on, I guess.
Consolidation of top military commands. There are about 800 generals and admirals spread across the United States and dozens of other countries and time zones. And this unprecedented order applies to all senior officers with the rank of brigadier general or above and their Navy equivalent serving in command positions and their top enlisted advisors. Now, typically, these officers each oversee hundreds or thousands of rank-and-file troops. And the order has come amidst confusion and alarm over the recent changes in the Pentagon. Even those overseeing troops in conflict zones, interestingly, are being pulled away from their command. The move has left the top officers baffled and worried, with some openly questioning the risk of yanking so many of the military leaders off duty at the same time to a certain specific location.
And that's literally what I just said.
The number of general officers.
That is literally what I just said. Again, I don't wear this uniform for fun. I don't wear it just for the memes that this can create. I don't talk about my military service or my propensity to lead this nation just by talking out of my ass. Like, notice how whenever I call out the actions of this administration, whenever I call out the stupidity of this administration, the leadership decisions, the economic, domestic, or even foreign policies, and then we watch a video about that very same subject, and the experts are literally repeating everything I just said, I am eminently qualified and capable of leading our country. And it's not hubris, it's not arrogance, it's because if you look at the needs of a nation, of a people, and the actions that are needed to be taken in order to ensure prosperity and safety, you do not do any of these things. I don't think I'm particularly exceptional I don't think I'm the most eminently qualified person in the world to be president of the United States, but I definitely believe that I have met all of the leadership criteria and that I have been validated by the various subject matter experts throughout all of these streams, corroborating all of the information that I share with you. So, if I may be a little bold.
Be reduced by 20%, firing senior leaders without cause, and also a high-profile order to rebrand the Defense Department as the Department of War.
There probably is at the Pentagon. You have to understand that the Pentagon is an extremely massive structure, but there is still no reason why you ever fucking would have 800 generals at the Pentagon in the same room.
All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Professor James A. Russell, who's the Associate Professor at the Department of National Security Affairs at NPS, where he teaches courses on U.S. foreign policy. Professor Russell, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Beyond. Now, this is a pretty baffling order that's been given by the Pentagon. Has it ever happened before that the military leadership of the United States of America has all been asked to congregate in one location at the same time?
No, certainly, Mohammed, not in recent memory that I can recollect. This is the civilian leadership, of course, can be expected to want to meet with its senior military commanders. But most of these meetings these days take place via secure video teleconferences. And the idea of assembling these numbers of senior leaders all at one place at one time, yeah, it strikes me as pretty unusual. Yeah, and I should hasten to add that I have no more insight than anybody else as to the purpose of this meeting.
Unfortunately, I've never been to the Pentagon. I actually did want to take vacation once, leave, while I was active duty to visit the Pentagon, because all military personnel have the ability to go to the Pentagon. But not all military personnel can go in the Pentagon. Does that make sense? Like, if you're active duty, the Pentagon is basically a city within those 5 walls, right? It's a city unto itself, and there's a BX, there's restaurants, there's like all sorts of stuff in there. So as a service member, you can go in and you can peruse, but there are very strict areas where you can't go. And if you even look at them, whether you're active duty in military uniform or not, your ass is grass. So I wanted to go to the Pentagon for the sake of the novelty of saying I went to the Pentagon, but I never did get the opportunity to do that. Right, it's like the Vatican of the military. That is actually a very good approximation of how the Pentagon is. You can go to the Vatican, you can visit the Vatican, you just can't visit the Vatican, right? Where the stuff happens, you can't go there.
Meeting.
You know, that was my follow-up question, because it is pretty baffling as to why the defense chief there, the Pentagon chief there, Pete Hegseth, would want all of his defense leadership there. Would you like to speculate as to perhaps what Pete Hegseth has in his mind, or probably maybe even Donald Trump, who would of course be the chief of all America's armed forces? Perhaps he may want to have a word with his military leadership.
Right. So just to be clear, I think in this administration in particular, the cabinet secretaries, Secretary Hegseth, for example, wouldn't be doing something like this, I think it's fair to say, without the direction of the White House.
That's why it's corrupt as shit. Because this is a naked effort to mandate the military to come to a location to be told for a very overtly political mandate to do something that this administration wants. And the only thing this administration wants is power and authority. So, yeah, Pete Hegseth did not order this on his own. I don't think he could, even if he wanted to. The point being, the only reason why anybody would even think to do this is to demand loyalty from your military and not wanting to risk them having any opportunity to undermine you from their positions of leadership and authority at their military installations. Again, a general and an admiral typically have the respect and support of their subordinates. Typically. I'm not saying in all cases. There are undoubtedly douchebag generals and admirals whose subordinates look at them with disdain and disgust. Absolutely. But one thing that all these people have is a history of military experience and a little bit of gravitas and arrogance for their rank. And they live by that, right? You don't become a general by accident. You don't become an admiral by accident. Whether it's a 1-star through 4-star, that's not an accident. It is extremely difficult to become a Flagstaff officer, right? And the fact that every single one of them were pulled from their places of authority, of command, where they have their loyal troops, their loyal commanders, the ability for them to resist any sort of fascist loyalty demand by this administration would have been astronomical. Whereas now, if they're ordered to come to the Pentagon and forced into the same room, you could have the entire room surrounded by MPs, and anyone who doesn't bend the knee would be forcibly escorted out of the Pentagon, stripped of their rank, their commission, or forcibly retired. Whereas if they were on their military installation, they could just shut off the fucking link, order their troops to disobey this administration, and make a public brouhaha stating that the administration attempted to demand their loyalty, undermining the separation of the military from the government. Well, from like the direct authority, And that's clearly what's happening. They are trying to prevent that from happening. That's not even conjecture. That's the only reason why you would do this.
I think it is clear, obviously, that there are profound civil-military relations in play here that run counter to, or they collide with, the agenda, the political agenda of the Trump administration. We have to remember, of course, that the General Officer Corps, the military leadership of the United States, of course, all the military leadership of the United States, swears allegiance to the Constitution. They don't swear allegiance to the president. And of course, this leaves open the possibility, I think it's more than a possibility, that the political leadership looks upon the military leadership as serving a different kind of priority, if you will. And if we look around the rest of the administration, for example, the civilian agencies, the Justice Department, the Department of Human Services, Homeland Security, all of these agencies, essentially the civilians that have been sent into these agencies have been sent there to destroy these agencies. They haven't been sent there to run them. So it's a little bit different in the Defense Department, of course. I think it's open to speculation as to what we can expect to see happen in this. But I think there are going to be some very profound civil-military relationship issues that are going to be raised in which...
I mean, I agree. And he's repeating everything that I just said. So I think we can pretty much all agree at this juncture that ordering the military, the top military brass of our country's military, into one location by this administration or any administration is not to have an all-call about being better warfighters and give everybody a gold star. I think we can all very clearly agree that this is an attempt to consolidate more power politically through the military by ensuring loyalists remain in positions of authority, and those who refuse will be replaced, which is going to make this country that much more dangerous. And the idea of mobilizing the National Guard in several states now becomes martial law across all 50 states. And I do not believe any of us want to live in that America. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israeli military strikes have killed at least 30 Palestinians since dawn in South and Central Gaza. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Civil Defense says an Israeli airstrike near a market in Gaza City killed nearly 24 Palestinians, including 6 women and 9 children Wednesday. They were reportedly sheltering from Israeli airstrikes in a warehouse. On Wednesday, Israeli forces killed Dr. Mohammed Akram al-Kafarna, head of the Palestinian Nursing Association in the Gaza Strip, chief nursing supervisor.
I guess we didn't catch that one yesterday. Or it happened after the stream yesterday. I don't know what else to say about Israel murdering Palestinians. I'm glad that Spain and Italy finally sent military vessels to help end the blockade, and that many countries recognize the state of Palestine, which has been around since longer than most other countries have been. But the fact that they're just getting away with this genocide without any hint of accountability is infuriating.
At Kamel Adwan Medical Complex. Meanwhile, Spain and Italy are sending naval vessels to protect the Gaza-bound global Samud flotilla after activists said drones attacked their boats near Greece. On Wednesday, activists reported multiple drones attacked their boats in the latest attacks on the flotilla. In a statement, the flotilla organizers said, quote, multiple drones, unidentified objects dropped, communications jammed, and explosions heard from a number of boats, unquote.
And again, these drones that are dropping munitions, whether they're explosive, whether they're ordnance, whether they're incendiary, whether they're communications jamming, these are all acts of war against civilian ships, against civilian individuals. That is always a war crime. Always. Exactly, Anna. 1,000%.
This comes as major news outlets, the BBC, Reuters, the Associated Press, and Agence France Presse, AFP, released a short film Wednesday calling on Israel to allow international journalists into Gaza. The film premiered at a Committee to Protect Journalists event in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. French President Emmanuel Macron says President Trump assured him any attempt by Israel to annex the West Bank would be a red line and would signal an end to the Abraham Accords. This comes as Politico reports that Trump promised Arab and Muslim leaders during a meeting Tuesday he would not allow Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Democracy. French President Emmanuel Macron says President Trump assured him any attempt by Israel to annex the West Bank would be a red line and would signal an end to the Abraham Accords. This comes as Politico reports that Trump promised Arab and Muslim leaders during a meeting Tuesday he would not allow Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to annex the West Bank. Meanwhile, in Israel, at least 22 people were injured in a drone attack Wednesday. Authorities say the drone was launched from Yemen. This comes days after the Houthis fired a drone at the Red Sea resort city of Eilat in southern Israel. And Israelis protested at Ben Gurion Airport as
Well, one, does Trump have any control over Bibi? And then two, now Yemen is striking back against Israel. Here's the thing. I don't begrudge Yemen being fed up with Israeli aggression, but striking back only gives Israel the fuel and excuses it needs to keep hitting back. It's like, oh, look, the Yemenis attacked us. It doesn't matter anymore what the truth is, what the reality is, that Israel has been the aggressor this entire time. Any aggression towards Israel is eat up by Western powers as Israel's right to defend itself. And I'm not saying that the Yemenis or any other country should just sit there and take it. But let's not add fuel to the fire, please.
Netanyahu was departing to New York to address the United Nations General Assembly.
Here to tell the world and the Prime Minister we want to end the war, we want to release the hostages and to finish whatever we're doing in Gaza. The Israeli government does not represent the Israeli people. The vast majority of Israelis want to end the war and release the hostages.
Prime Minister Netanyahu will be
Is
addressing.
that true? Because the last time we actually read the polls about Israeli citizens and what they thought about Gaza and Palestine was that they wanted to murder everybody in Palestine and Gaza. Well, here's the thing. If Trump wants to stop Bibi, he could simply arrest Bibi when he shows up to America this coming week. That's the best way to stop Bibi. Arrest his fucking ass on American soil.
The UN General Assembly and meeting with President Trump in Washington for the fourth time since Trump took office. In Texas, a prisoner in Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
How many times is normal for a foreign leader to meet with the president on U.S. soil? Because I cannot think of any time in history where any other foreign leader visited America as many times as Bibi has visited America. Yeah, sure, maybe there's a state visit a year at most from our closest allies. But 4 times in less than 12 months from a dictator that is committing genocide? Absolutely fucking not.
Facility in Dallas was killed on Wednesday when a shooter opened fire from a nearby rooftop. 2 other ICE prisoners were critically wounded in the sniper attack.
All right. So, I'm glad she's covering this video, but I'm fairly certain we have a more in-depth video regarding this. I just don't know where it is. Can you bring it up to right after this video, Anna, while we're watching?
Investigators say the shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Following the attack, FBI Director Kash Patel posted an image on social media showing unused ammunition he said belonged to the shooter with the words anti-ICE written in blue ink on one casing.
So, here's the thing, right? What the fuck is this trend, if you will, of shooters putting their motives on the bullets? Quite frankly, the only time we've ever heard of that even happening was with Luigi Mangione when he murdered the CEO of United Healthcare. And here's the thing. Luigi Mangione probably wasn't even the guy that did it. But the shooter who did it was the one who allegedly wrote on the bullets, right? So now this administration under Kash Patel thinks, oh, good, if we ever have active shooters, then we can make sure that they are absolutely guilty by making sure that there are markings on the bullets that condemn them straight to hell. Like, that is such a childish, immature, just unbelievable tactic by this administration and the patsy that is Kash Patel. And also, all of the bullets have been marked on previously. Now, all of a sudden, it's just one bullet. One bullet. And a bullet that wasn't even ready to be fired. Because here's the thing. If you have rifle rounds that are still on that clip, which is this thing, that little bronze thing there at the bottom, maybe there's a better image of it.
Vice President, the shooter with the word social attack. Following the attack, FBI Director Kash Patel posted an image.
Okay, so there isn't a better image. Point being, those are not going to be easy or quick to remove, put into a magazine, and then reload. That's not a quick loading device. That's how you buy rifle rounds from the store. So, again, and if the shooter was going to send a message via bullet to the enemy, or what they determined to be the enemy, then they would write it on every single bullet, not just one bullet. Not only that, they're trying to frame this shooter as a leftist, a left-wing extremist. Well, let me ask you something. When was the last time you or anyone else has ever said anti-ICE? I'm being serious. When have you heard anybody ever utter the phrase anti-ICE? I have never heard it. And I am on left Twitter, right? Like, all of my social media is as left-wing as it gets, right? Probably because of this, you know? And the only phrase I've ever heard in conjunction with ICE is abolish ICE, defund ICE, prosecute ICE, fascist ICE, Gestapo ICE, and fuck ICE. Never once have I heard anti-ICE. And what makes that even worse is this administration is so stupid and so ignorant that they think anti-whatever is how the left creates their chants and their cries against something that they don't like. Anti-abortion, right? Well, that's not true. We're pro-abortion. So anti-life, which has also never been said. Anti-fascism is literally the only one I can think of that is actually anti. Because we don't say anti-police. We don't say anti-MAGA. We don't say, we do say anti-capitalism to a degree. But it's mostly anti-capitalism and anti-fascism. Antifa and anti-Ka. So the fact that this administration thinks that by putting anti in front of whatever it is makes it left-wing is actually stupid, is actually laughable, is actually incorrect. Because the only ones that would actually say something like that are right-wingers trying to mock left-wingers. I know because, where's our woke checks? I can't wait to join Kamala Harris and get my woke check for my woke autism and woke fair support. Like, right-wingers are terrible at memeing, for one, and for two, they don't even understand left-wing language or ideology enough to mock it efficiently, at any rate. So, there is, right, from Soros, there is literally, by showing those rounds with that writing on only one bullet, and the fact that the shooter murdered detainees, and had alleged text messages stating that he wanted to kill ICE agents, but then somehow only shot the detainees, which would have been wearing prison-esque uniforms, and most certainly not ICE-issued uniforms, right? Like, they would have been distinct, something like this, or green, or something that said ICE boldly across it. Like, you don't accidentally shoot a detainee instead of an ICE agent. So, between the facts of the crimes itself, the fact that it was detainees that were killed, not ICE agents, the fact that the bullets were found still attached to the way you would get them at the store, and the fact that only one bullet was written on in a way that wouldn't make any sort of correlation to the left wing at all, is evidence, is all the evidence that we need that this is yet another false flag operation. And the fact that there have been so many false flag operations back to back to back because the Epstein scandal will not go away is more evidence that it's a false flag, right? On top of the fact that we're consolidating fascism, we have the Epstein files, the consolidation of fascism, and trying to criminalize dissent, badger the media networks, news networks, into compliance, and so on and so forth, right? All of these things are happening simultaneously, so there has to be yet another distraction. Killing Charlie Kirk was clearly not enough. So now they're trying to manufacture terrorist attacks from extreme right-wingers that were murdering detainees. That is where we are at, folks. And it would actually be funny if it wasn't actually happening. Like, if this was a movie or a TV series, this would be damn near a comedy.
On social media, showing unused ammunition he said belonged to the shooter with the words anti-ICE written in blue ink on one casing. Vice President J.D. Vance said, without evidence, the attack was carried out by a, quote, violent left-wing extremist, unquote. While President Trump responded on social media, quote, this violence is the result of radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, unquote.
Right. And the fact that it was blue ink, right? And when they swept his house, they found a note saying that he did it alone and that he wanted to hurt ICE agents, right? It's It's insane to me, the sheer audacity and brazenness of this administration belligerently lying to the American people, trying to manufacture outrage and consent for the actions that this administration is committing.
Shooter was identified as 29-year-old Joshua Yan with ties to North Texas and Oklahoma. His acquaintances described him to journalist Ken Klippenstein as someone with a vaguely libertarian bent who despised both major parties and politicians generally, a fan of first-person shooter video games, apparently racked up 10,000 games on one website, and the message board 4chan. He once flooded the comment...
Oh my God. This dude was a libertarian COD keyboard warrior that lived on 4chan, which is actually one of the creepiest networks, platforms on the internet, and hasn't it? I thought it was taken down. I thought 4chan was taken down for the sheer amount of pedophilia, rape, and right-wing extremism that was occurring on that site. Evidently not, but once again, extremely indicative of conservatism, of conservative behavior and actions.
Sections of his friends' social media pages with rape jokes. This is the suspect's neighbor, Sherry Gates.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. We know a lot of people in this neighborhood, but I didn't happen to know them. And it's just shocking to me that, our country's come to this point where we can't even talk, we can't share our opinions and ideas without risking being shot or something.
Yeah, but see, Sherry Gates is exactly the kind of problem that we have in this country, and I want to emphasize problem. Everybody who says we're getting to a point where you can't even express your opinions or thoughts without getting shot typically has conservative opinions, because quite frankly, the only people who have ever gotten shot for espousing universal healthcare, education, equality, and the liberation of the working class have been shot by the government. Right-wing extremists typically don't go after left-wing activists. They usually don't go after protesters, and when they do, it's belligerently obvious that it is a right-winger going after a left-winger protester, and it's usually corroborated with police support. So, let's be very clear on that. The only ones who are engaging in violence are the conservatives. And although there is some examples of left-wing violence, the overwhelming majority, it was over 97%, was always right-wing. Political violence is 97% right-wing, and conducted by men on top of that. So to even remotely suggest that these incidents would be de facto left-wing is insane. This administration itself had to delete and redact its own study, its own evidence proving that it was conservative violence that drives most political violence in this country. So, this terrorist regime itself had to hide the fact that it is their followers, their supporters, that are the ones most likely to be guilty of committing such a crime of violence. So, let's just, get all that shit out of the way, right? The fact, though, that people are so willing to believe these lies coming from this regime instead of using a single brain cell to analyze the facts, the information, even without any other biases, just look at the evidence of the crime itself. How are you going to be anti-ICE and kill detainees? Plain and simple. How are you going to be anti-ICE to the point where you wrote it on a fucking bullet and then kill detainees? Presumably, if you hated ICE agents, it is because you felt empathy and sympathy for the suffering and cruel treatment of the detained. You wouldn't murder the detained for any reason whatsoever. That's not how that works. So this act itself would scream something is not adding up from the message that is being told. You have the president, the vice president, and the head of the FBI all agreeing that this was an act of left-wing whatever against ICE, but the victims were detainees. Like, I don't care how smart or how dumb you are. I don't care how much critical thinking skills you have or lack. 1 + 1 = 2. And here we have 1 + fish = 3. Like, this isn't adding up. Like, this is not adding up. And I cannot emphasize that nearly enough.
In California, 39-year-old Ismael Ayala Uribe was pronounced dead Monday after he was found unresponsive at the Adelanto ICE Processing Center. Ayala Uribe was brought to the U.S. from Mexico at the age of 4 and lived in Westminster in Orange County, his home, for most of his life.
So, a 39-year-old detainee has died in an ICE detention center. Now, is it possible that you can die while in a detention center? Sure, if you're old and you don't have your medication, or if you have an extreme medical malady and you don't have your medication, or if you're severely injured or sick otherwise, then it's possible to die in a detention center. Explain to me how a 39-year-old healthy individual dies in a detention center in California. And the fact that he's not the first, or the only, or the last to be dying in these detention centers. I know that we just got to the beginning of the story where it was told that he died, but like, we are entering into the stage of death camps at this point.
He was approved for DACA in 2012, but his request to renew that protection was denied in 2016. He died one day after he received emergency surgery for an abscess. His treatment came 3 days after he first complained of pain and after his cries for help fell on deaf ears at the privately run ICE jail in California, which operated for profit by the GEO Group.
Now, I am glad that she emphasized several times in that statement that it was a private prison owned by a for-profit entity called the GEO Group. Well done, highlighting the fact that we have concentration camps that are being used to kill the detained, who were detained without due process, who were having their legal statuses arbitrarily denied and revoked, to then turn them into illegal immigrants on American soil, to then ignore their medical pleas, which is again a crime against humanity, to then watch that person die at a for-profit institution. We are creating death camps on American soil for profit. Let me say that again for emphasis. We have death camps, we have Auschwitz, we have Dachau on American soil that are ran by for-profit institutions. Again, we are not entering fascism. We are in it. And although we aren't fully consolidated, and although it's not a pure red blanket of, well, we've reached this stage of consolidated fascism, we have death camps, we're consolidating the military, we have the secret police, we're undermining judges and authorities, and we are terrorizing journalists and elected leaders. We're also lying about what we're doing, and we are denying the elected representatives from being sworn in to do their part of, voting on legislation. So, we might not be going from left to right. We're starting here at the entryway of fascism and are just goose-stepping to full-on Nazi propaganda fascism. But we are painting with broad strokes across the entire spectrum of consolidation. So let's see what else we have to hear on this.
Ayala Uribe is the 14th person to die in federal immigration custody since January.
Again, that is more than one death per month. Since January, which is 8 months since this administration took over, there has been a nearly average of 2 people dying in detention since this started happening. And quite frankly, that's because we do not know the whereabouts of the people that were in the Florida detention center that was deemed uninhabitable and inhumane thanks to indigenous intervention. All 1,200 of those people, or at least 1,200 of those people, are unaccounted for. And there's even rumors that they went on cargo planes over the ocean and were never seen again. And we have a video about that. So although the reported numbers are 14, we could be at well over 1,200.
In more immigration news, CNN reports it's identified more than 100 U.S. citizen children, from newborns to teenagers, who've been left stranded without parents because of immigration actions this year. The parents were arrested by ICE during raids on workplaces ranging from farms to meatpacking plants, coming out of ICE check-ins, or when dropping their kids off at school. In Georgia, lawyers for the prominent Spanish-language journalist Mario Guevara have asked a judge for a temporary restraining order to halt his deportation to El Salvador, which they say is imminent. Guevara has been jailed by ICE for more than 100 days, even though an immigration judge granted him bond. Guevara was arrested while live streaming a No Kings demonstration in June, even though he clearly identified himself as a journalist. He's lived in the United States for some 20 years and has built a large following for his reporting on anti-ICE protests. In China, nearly 2 million.
I mean, we're arresting journalists, which, granted, Israel started off with arresting journalists in Gaza and then just started murking them. So I guess we haven't started murdering journalists, except we're going to try and send this one to El Salvador, which is, what's the word? Infamous for killing its prisoners.
Million people evacuated Guangdong province ahead of Typhoon Regasa's landfall earlier today. The storm brought record-breaking winds and torrential rains with up to a month's worth of precipitation falling over some areas. In eastern Taiwan, officials say 14 people were killed. 13 others remain missing after the typhoon caused a barrier lake to burst its banks, washing away bridges, submerging vehicles, and leaving the ground floors of homes underwater. The cyclone peaked as the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane, as the strongest storm on Earth this year.
And honestly, that's this year. The hurricane season hasn't even begun yet. So you can only imagine how much worse these storms can get.
China's President Xi Jinping said Wednesday his country plans to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by at least 7 to 10% over the next decade. His landmark pledge in a video address Wednesday to the UN General Assembly came a day after Trump called climate change the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world.
As we have not only more Category 5 hurricanes than at any other point in time in history, but also more intense Category 5 hurricanes, to the point where some scientists are arguing that we need to create a Category 6. That is how fucking severe these hurricanes are getting and how absolutely destructive they are. And again, it's only because of the increased carbon in our atmosphere, which is the greenhouse gases effect.
绿色低碳转型是时代潮流。
Green and low-carbon transition is the trend of our time. While some country is acting against it, the international community should stay focused on the right direction, remain unwavering in confidence, unremitting in actions, and unrelenting in intensity.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's appeal to global leaders to stop Russia from driving a new arms race, warning the combination of autonomous drones and artificial intelligence poses new risks to humanity. Zelensky made the warning during his address Wednesday to the UN General Assembly, where he said Russia will expand its aggression beyond Ukraine if it's not stopped. Separately, Zelensky told Axios he doesn't seek to lead Ukraine once conflict with Russia has ended, saying he intends to organize organize elections if a ceasefire is reached. On Wednesday, a Kremlin spokesperson lashed out over President Trump's claim Ukraine could claw back territory captured by Russia's full-scale invasion, saying Russia has, quote, no alternative but to continue its war in Ukraine. Former FBI Director James Comey's reportedly...
I know we didn't cover much, if anything, about Ukraine yesterday, but, I mean, talk about not shocking at all that Ukraine is shaking its mouse fist and Zelensky is giving lip service to democracy, while Russia is saying, well, we're not giving up what we fought for, and we're going to keep fighting until we feel satisfied. I mean, again, the entire world in various theaters have devolved into madness and aggression and violence. It's a not great time.
Set to be indicted on criminal charges in Virginia by next week. This comes just days after Eric Siebert, the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, resigned under pressure from President Trump after he refused to file charges against Comey. Earlier this week, Trump installed Lindsay Halligan, who was his personal lawyer, to replace Siebert. Halligan has no prosecutorial experience.
And this is the part that also gets me. On the one hand, we have the attorney general guy resigning by refusing to indict the former FBI director. He resigns, is immediately replaced with some person, and then immediately there are charges filed, indictments, this, that, and the other, and the former FBI director is going to face a trial. Like, the blatant corruption is I mean, they're not even attempting to hide it anymore. Like, what else can you say other than this is blatant corruption?
Meanwhile, the FBI says it's found classified documents at former National Security Advisor John Bolton's office last month while executing a search warrant. According to a court filing, the documents reference weapons of mass destruction, the U.S. mission to the UN, and the U.S. government's strategic communications. Bolton became a vocal critic of Trump after resigning in 2019 and writing a tell-all book about his time in the first Trump administration.
So, again, this is political retaliation. Again, Bolton's not a good person. He was right up there with Kissinger. But the fact that this level of aggression and scrutiny is being leveraged against Bolton by this administration, who hired him and was a prolific member of the administration for a majority of it, once again, reeks of political persecution.
The state superintendent of public instruction, Oklahoma, has announced plans to install chapters of Charlie Kirk's youth organization, Turning Point USA, at all state public high schools. In a post on social media, Superintendent Ryan Walters wrote, quote, "Radical leftist teachers unions have dominated classrooms for far too long, and we're taking them back," unquote. In a press release, Walters detailed how students could start a Turning Point chapter in their schools by gathering at least 3 students and completing a charter agreement. Turning Point USA would then send the chapter an activism kit. Walters was asked by a local reporter about what would happen to a school if they refused to establish a chapter of Turning Point USA.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we would go after their accreditation. We would go after their certificates. So, yeah, they would be in danger of not being a school district if they decided to reject a club that is here to promote civic engagement.
Meanwhile, Oklahoma Republican lawmakers proposed a bill this week that would require all public colleges and universities to construct a Charlie Kirk Memorial Plaza.
Okay. First of all, that Oklahoma guy, pretty sure he resigned. Pretty sure he was forced to resign after that statement. Secondly, we're getting to the point now where we're implementing the Hitler Youth program. Turning Point USA program as a mandatory thing in our state school systems, granted primarily Oklahoma. But if Oklahoma follows through and listens to this, other states are sure to follow. So the Hitler Youth program, Turning Point USA, is now being floated as a mandatory requirement in schools to spread more right-wing propaganda, which has brought us this administration and the fascism that we are experiencing today. On top of that, Oklahoma is trying to force schools to erect statues of this fucking clown. And nobody sees that and thinks, wow, that's really weird. Why would we erect statues of Charlie Kirk when we didn't for George Floyd, for now that I want to say their names, Breonna Taylor. We had Till, why can't I think of the names right now? What the hell's wrong with me? Point being, we didn't Tamir Rice. We didn't do Central Park 5. That's what I was thinking of. Emmett Till. That was the other person I was thinking of. Philando Castile, right? We didn't mandate statues for the victims of racist attacks. But the Hitler Youth Program creator, Turning Point USA creator, we're going to mandate statues of him? That doesn't make any bit of sense. And it's extremely concerning that there are elected officials that are not only proposing said legislation, voting on it and passing it.
On each campus that includes a statue of the late conservative activist. A statue of President Trump holding hands with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein appeared earlier this week on Washington, D.C.'s National Mall and was quickly removed. The installation was titled Best Friends Forever and had a plaque that read, quote, "In honor of Friendship Month, we celebrate the long-lasting bond between President Donald J. Trump and his closest friend, Jeffrey Epstein."
That's
unquote.
Impressive.
A group called the Secret Handshake had reportedly obtained a permit to install the statue until Sunday, but the U.S. Park Police took down the statue before daybreak on Wednesday.
That's impressive as shit, by the way. She said it.
Handshake had reportedly obtained, unquote. A group called the Secret Handshake had reported.
A group called the Secret Handshake. Now, what's crazy is they got a permit to put up a statue in D.C. So somebody saw this permit, was like, the Secret Handshake wants to erect a statue. They probably had to give a description of the statue and did it vaguely enough to where the person that was reading it was like, yeah, sure, that's probably not a problem. And then it was this. And that's marble, or at least it looks like it's marble. To me, I think, I don't know how much effort it would take to make a fake marble and a fake bronze cast statue. I don't know. I am not an artist. That is one of the very few parts of things that I do not understand much of. But that's my point. The bronze statue, the marble, all of that is extremely fucking heavy. And it would take a lot of time and money to create this thing. That's at least, I would have to guess, at least $250,000 worth of material. Never mind the man hours involved or the specialized transportation requirements so that it doesn't break or tip over during transportation. That being said, I'm curious. There was a committee called something like the Cutlery Committee, and they wanted to erect a memorial to culinary excellence, and got a permit approved in D.C. and just erected a shit ton of guillotines.
Reportedly obtained a permit to install the statue until Sunday, but the U.S. Park Police took down the statue before daybreak on Wednesday. In the New York City mayoral race, Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa says at least 7 wealthy individuals have offered him money to end his campaign.
Are you kidding me? Why is he wearing a beret? First of all, I guess I'm wearing this wrong. It's somehow supposed to be inverted. How the... Of course, my fingers are covered in chips right now. So it kind of looks like it would be along the lines of this. That's not working for me, is it? I don't know how the fuck. So is it like they do this and then they just collapse one end of it down? Is that not what I was essentially doing? See, that looks shit. That looks terrible. That is not working for me. Okay, well, this is my solution to the beret problem. Okay, all right, fam. Who wore it better?
He vowed to remain in the race, where he faces New York Mayor Eric Adams, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and New York Assembly member Zohran Mamdani. President Trump has previously stated, quote, Cuomo might have a chance of winning if it was a one-on-one, unquote.
How the fuck would he have a chance of winning against Zohran Mamdani when he already fucking lost against Zohran Mamdani? Hello? Like, that doesn't even fucking make sense.
In response to the report, Zohran Mamdani wrote on social media, quote, another desperate attempt by people who can't stand the idea of New Yorkers electing their mayor instead of billionaires buying one, unquote, the Democratic mayoral candidate said. In France, a judge on Thursday sentenced former President Nicolas Sarkozy to 5 years in prison after he was found guilty of...
He lives in a studio with his wife and 16 cats? No wonder the billionaires told him to just drop out of the race. Jesus.
Criminal conspiracy for illegally receiving millions of euros from the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi to fund his 2007 campaign. Sarkozy is the first former French head of state in the modern era to be convicted of a crime. And the daughter of a New Mexico state...
So wait a minute. The first president of the modern era? Was she actually alluding to La Guillotine? Or, like one of the French attempted fascists after World War II? Wasn't it Lapierre or something like that? Wasn't he convicted of fascism like almost immediately after World War II or something like that? That's crazy, Amy.
Legislator is accusing her father of putting the priorities of the Israeli government over his constituents. New Mexico State Senator Jay Block was part of a bipartisan delegation of 250 lawmakers who visited Israel earlier this month for the 50 States One Israel conference, in which they...
50 states, one Israel. Now, to many viewers, to many Americans... 50 states, one Israel probably isn't, anything to be worried about. Like, okay, so we're really friends with Israel. Big whoop. How would you feel if it was 50 states, one China? 50 states, one Russia. 50 states, one Germany. 50 states, one Italy. One Africa. One Brazil. One South Korea, one Japan. When you integrate a foreign power into the 50 states of America and that foreign power, that's not the equivalent of the G8, the G7, or the G20, right? The big 20, the big 8, right? That is solidarity with another sovereign state. 50 states and this other country, and the fact that they were state-level legislators, governors, congresspeople, it's all levels of American government going to Israel for an Israel-sponsored conference to promote Israel to Americans, who then came back to America to promote Israel. Treason is very clearly defined in our Constitution. The definition of treason in the U.S. Constitution. Wrong tab. All right. Article 3, Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act or on confession in open court. Right? So, adhering to their enemies. This has been consistently construed as being involved with a foreign power against the policies of the United States. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. So, the Section 1, Clause 1. The treason clause is a product of the framers' awareness of the numerous and dangerous excrescences which had distorted the English law of treason. The clause was therefore intended to put extending the crime and punishment of treason beyond power. Debate in the convention, remarks in the ratifying conventions, and contemporaneous public comments make clear that framers contemplated a restrictive concept of the crime of treason that would prevent the politically powerful from escalating ordinary partisan disputes into capital charges of treason, as so often had happened in England. Thus, the framers adopted 2 of the 3 formulations in the phraseology of the English statute of treason enacted in 1350, but they conspicuously omitted the phrase defining as treason the compassing or imagining the death of our Lord the King, under which most of the English law of constructive treason had been developed. Again, treason has been historically utilized to define working with a foreign enemy, a foreign entity, to adhere to them in the face of American interests, right? And Israel, in this case, in this definition of treason, would be an enemy because their interests do not align with American interests or for the benefit of American government. It is enemy in the broadest sense of the word, non-American. Right, we have the whole country witnessing their treason. 100%.
Were lobbied by the Israeli government for more funding. After the trip, Bloc declared Israel is not committing a genocide in Gaza and said the Israeli military is doing, quote, everything possible to avoid killing Gazan civilians, unquote.
In what fucking universe is that statement true? Every single day they're killing 30 civilians. Every single day they're targeting civilian infrastructure and housing complexes and hospitals. Every single fucking day they are targeting civilians and civilian structures. They're fucking bombing civilians on a flotilla on the way to breach the blockade, to the point where 2 countries finally sent warships to escort them. In what fucking universe is Israel doing anything, let alone everything in its power, to prevent civilian casualties?
On Tuesday, 28-year-old Maddie Block called out her father in a TikTok video.
Dad, a Republican state senator in New Mexico, just got back from his trip to Israel, which was not like a personal vacation, by the way. It was him and a bunch of his other Republican cronies who got invited to Israel for what I can only assume was just like a propaganda trip.
And those are some of...
I mean, honestly, that is the most base thing that could have happened in that situation. Like, way to go, child of the New Mexico dude, for calling him out on his bullshit. All right. I don't know what this is. Ta-Naisi Coates rips Ezra Klein's Kirk praise to shreds. We're definitely not going to watch 19 minutes of that, so we will move past that. These ones seem to be very quick clips, so we'll go ahead.
Agent Orange sending a Secret Service to your house. Did the Secret Service really come to your house after that?
They came to my studio, yeah.
Okay.
And they were just basically asking me questions about my lyrics to see what the intent was behind them, and if I was making a actual threat I got backlash for the Trump cipher. And at least when this is all said and done, maybe I can just be on the right side of history. The thing that pissed me off the most, the Kaepernick thing. And when that happened and how he kept changing the narrative and kept changing the narrative. Like really? Nike supports people who kneel for the anthem. At this point, seriously, you gotta be a moron to think that that's just what it's about and it's that fucking cut and dry. There's a meaning behind this and there's real pain behind this. And you're burning a pair of shoes?
You know what? Eminem. I know that he tends to be a little neoliberal, like the fact that he endorsed Biden and I think he even endorsed Hillary or something. I don't remember if he did do that. I do know that he has gone out of his way to endorse Democratic candidates in the past. So I'm not going to say he's based, but I am going to say that he is 100% at least trying to be on the right side of history and will call out bad shit when he sees it. Now, do I expect him to, stand up for trans rights and for Palestine? No, I don't expect him to do that. It would be great, but I just don't realistically see that happening. However, I am very impressed with Eminem. I hope we become prominent enough to get on Eminem's radar to where he realizes, oh shit, here's a real one that is actually about that life. I could actually see myself supporting him and truly being on the right side of history and maybe helping somebody that wants to make a true difference in this country. So I genuinely hope Eminem is even half as based as he was in this interview during a time in which he could end up supporting us. I really hope he just continues to move in that direction. Oh, you moved around the stream list entirely. Got you. All right, cool. Right, that's how I knew he didn't do the rap honoring Kirk. Only MAGA boomers fell for that AI shit and didn't even sound like Eminem. Exactly. Like, we can say what we want about Eminem, but he's definitely not a right-wing cuck. We definitely can all agree on that. Let's try WSJ News.
The body scanner reveals the brutal truth about your body that your regular scale will never tell you. For weeks.
So 1 was killed and 2 were injured after a shooter opened fire at the ICE office in Texas. Is there going to be any audio?
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating.
Shax and a bunch of numbers. Thank you for the follow.
This incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence. To include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado.
Okay, so these clowns are trying to associate the 11 idiots who played Call of Duty once or twice and bought a bunch of body armor and rifles to assault an ICE facility, and then once anybody showed up, they immediately surrendered, with the same guy who just murdered 3 detainees. What do you think the meeting is for? People are saying aliens. So, you know what? That would actually be the best possible set of circumstances, is if the emergency meeting was held because of the imminent revelation of aliens to the American people and well, the global community broadly. Honestly, that would be the best case scenario. That, hey, we're going to have an all call for the United States Armed Forces, General Staff leadership to let them know that aliens are real and to prepare their command for imminent alien invasion or whatever. Realistically, though, the meeting is to consolidate fascism. It is to finalize the coup, the takeover of American government and institutions, by consolidating power within the military. There are a lot of supporters of this terrorist regime in the military already, but clearly not enough for this regime's tastes. So what's going to happen, more than likely, 99.99% likely, is that they will be put in a room. There will be military police that are loyal to Trump put outside the room and even within the room. And Hegseth will say, you will kiss the ring, you will bend the knee, you will swear your allegiance to Donald Trump, or you will be replaced with someone who will. And those who do will stay in the room, and those who don't will be escorted out and or stripped of their command, their commission, or forced into retirement. That is the most logical outcome of this, which is deeply, deeply concerning and unsettling. So I hope that answers your question. This video is... Oh, we're definitely not listening to the fucking Zodiac Killer speak. We're definitely not doing that.
The structure motorized
Let's see if
pergola
USA
system
Today
is
has
reinventing
a better
the way homeowners
clip
experience
on
the
this.
outdoors.
Good morning, I'm Taylor Wilson, and today is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. This is USA Today's The Excerpt.
Is this a fucking podcast?
The country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
God damn it.
NBC News correspondent Jay
There
Gray
we
is
go.
live there in
Shit.
Dallas for us. Jay, you've been following this from the start this morning, and moments ago we just learned the identity of the shooter. What do we know at this point?
Yeah, Vicky, it is a 29-year-old Joshua John, we are told. Still trying to find out more information, but that confirmed through multiple law enforcement sources to NBC News. Again, 29-year-old Joshua John. We don't know anything about a criminal background. That's something we're going to have to develop as this continues to unfold. We can tell you that the Department of Homeland Security has said that the shots were fired indiscriminately at the building by John from a nearby rooftop. He was firing at the ICE building and sprayed that facility. One of the witnesses says there was as many as 20 shots fired. And during that time, he hit a van as well as the detainees that were being moved from that van. We know that 3 of the detainees were hit. 2 of them have died. The 3rd in critical condition right now at a Dallas hospital.
That's actually worse than what we covered earlier before we heard this. The dumb motherfucker emptied a clip into the side of the ICE detention facility. If you are on a rooftop with visual access to the detention center, why would you spray and pray at the fucking building? Especially if you were anti-ICE, which of course is not a thing. But that makes even less sense. You're just going to indiscriminately shoot at the van and the walls, which are going to be significantly reinforced because it's a detention facility. That makes even less sense. How are they finding these people? Like, are they going to 4chan and say, hey kid, we're going to give your family $50,000, because that's apparently the number that they like to give out nowadays. We'll give your family $50,000 if you shoot up this ICE detention facility and then kill yourself. That doesn't... All of these acts of violence do not make sense. Either from the perspective of the shooter, including the Charlie Kirk shooter, because... how is a 22-year-old going to make a 200-yard shot straight to the fucking neck through a crowd? And then just leave the rifle in the woods, change into completely civilian gear, and then make it 17 minutes away to a Wendy's. Like, none of that makes any damn sense. Then you got this shooter, who by all rights is a conservative. Why the hell would they be shooting at ICE agents at all? And if they wanted to kill detainees, why would they be shooting indiscriminately? And honestly, if 20 shots were fired and only detainees were hit, then this kid was obviously on an adrenaline rush, but was aiming for the detainees. because otherwise a regular ICE agent could have gotten hit with 20 rounds. So there are zero circumstances in which this makes any amount of sense. Going back to the 11 kids who had flak vests that they left in the van, but were opening fire with rifles without the flak vests that they brought against a detention center, and then the first bullet that went past their heads, they surrendered. Like, none of these acts of violence are making any goddamn sense. And as far as false flags go, they don't have to make sense, but they are extremely questionable in the veracity. Most false flags seem legitimate, hence why they're very hard to tell that they were false flags in the first place, like 9/11. 9/11 is a false flag. And more evidence is coming out over the years that it was Israel pushing America to invade the Middle East after the attack. America was going to just be angry about it and let it go. Israel was pushing for the war against terror. Israel, because we didn't invade the Middle East for another year after that. So this shit really doesn't fucking make any sense. I mean, that's the long and the short of it.
Law enforcement was hit during the attack, and then the gunman, of course, turned a weapon on himself. They're continuing to investigate exactly what's going on. As you can see behind me, Vicki, this area is still locked down and will be for quite some time. Law enforcement from multiple federal agencies as well as Dallas police on the ground as a part of this investigation. We do hear that it was a targeted investigation, that from the FBI on the ground here, saying that this shooter was at the time targeting ICE.
Jake.
He wasn't targeting ICE because he wouldn't have shot 20 rounds and only hit detainees. That's just how that's not how that fucking works. There's a video towards the bottom. Apparently Israel is going around saying that another 9/11 is going to happen. Right. They actually, Iran, the country of Iran, one of America's greatest adversaries, contacted America, letting America know that Israel was going to false flag attack something in America. And then America thwarted that false flag attack that Israel was instituting. So again, Israel has already in the recent past, I think it was June, attempted to attack America on American soil and blame Iran for it. So the likelihood that Israel is involved in any of these acts of violence that's happening on U.S. soil, or the veracity of the video at the bottom, is very real. Israel is trying its hardest to fulfill its final solution, what it feels is its God-given right to do. And it will murder everyone and inflame everyone to do it. It's insane.
Give us a sense of what happens at this ICE facility, who's coming, who's going, and give us more of some context, really, because there was a recent bomb threat also against ICE agents at this particular building.
Really? That's
yeah,
new.
Absolutely. It was just about a month ago that there was a bomb threat called into this ICE facility. The person who called that in was arrested. I can tell you that it's a field office, so it's not a detention center. It's not where people stay behind bars. It's a place where they are processed and moved through, and that's apparently what was happening this morning.
Okay.
That these three...
it still looks like it would be a very reinforced building.
Men had been arrested. They were being moved inside the office when the shots were fired. It's also a place where people do routine checks. They have to check in with ICE. Immigrants have to go there as part of their moving forward towards citizenship. And so that was happening this morning as well. In fact, we heard from someone who was there just for that cause. She had dropped off her husband. She was in the car with her 9-year-old when the shots were fired. She tells us that they dove underneath the car and the shots continued to ring out. She was then approached by a Dallas police officer who grabbed her and moved the family inside the ICE facility where there was apparently chaos. Everyone inside there ducking down behind a desk and trying to protect themselves as best they could. But this is a field office, so it's where those meetings take place every day, Vicki. It's a spot where they're not holding anyone, but everyone comes through.
Yeah, people are.
That makes even less sense. Like, it's a significantly less defended facility. Okay, so in terms of if you're gonna attack ICE anywhere, that would probably be one of the easier places to do it. But again, if your mantra is to be against ICE, and you have your position, like, okay, you have your rifle, you're on the roof, you're prone, right? You're like this. You're not, even if you're shaking, right? Even if you're shaking, bang. But that's if you're standing, bang, bang. Like, you're not, even if you're yanking on the trigger, like, if you're braced, you're not, yeah, there's movement, but, like, unless you're doing this number, you're not missing your target. Prop. That was a prop. You're not missing your target from a prone position, especially when you have the high ground. So, like, if the target was ICE agents, he could not have missed. There's no fucking way you would have missed. Unless you're just blind. Like, yeah, without glasses on, there's every real possibility I wouldn't be able to see shit. So maybe the dude wasn't wearing his contacts. But that's the only possible way that he could have accidentally killed detainees instead of agents, if that was his goal, to kill the agents. Oh, this is that
Hundreds
one.
of people who were once detained at the troubled immigration jail in the Florida Everglades, dubbed Alligator Alcatraz, have disappeared. The Miami Herald reports about 2/3 of the 1,800 immigrants who were held there in July have gone missing from ICE's online database, with their families unable to locate them.
Right, so not only are they missing from the location, they've been erased from the fucking database. Now, say what you will about bureaucracy, you don't accidentally lose 2/3 of an entire population. And if you did, you would be fired for doing so because of the recklessness of doing so. Right? The potential danger to, if any prison that had a population of 1,800 lost the records of 1,200 inmates, everybody is going under the bus. And we're talking state and federal charges. The warden, the vice warden, or deputy warden, the majors, the captains, probably every single lieutenant that was on the shift in which those records were lost, because there's timestamps for all that fun stuff. Like, you don't accidentally lose these records. You destroy those records. And if the response of all of these videos and all of these reportings is that, those numbers are no longer there, and not who is losing their job and who is being charged accordingly, then it was an order to destroy the records and disappear 1,200 people. Which is Nazi-style death camp bullshit. But it's actually not even the Nazi style, because the Nazis were very particular about their notes keeping. They wanted the bureaucracy. They were like, nope, we got them, we got them, we got that one, and yes, we got the other. The Nazis actually wanted to keep a record of who they got so they know who else they need to get. If you got rid of the record, well, shit, did we get everybody? I don't know. The Nazis would have killed their fellow Nazis for losing the fucking records. So we are, again, worse than Nazis because we're covering our tracks, hiding the information, and disappearing people arbitrarily. While doing it for profit, I might add. Absolutely fucking insane.
Earlier this month, the federal appeals court ruled the jail could continue to operate despite reports of abuse. Trump welcomed the news.
I think Florida's done a great job.
Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? Did I hear that correctly?
Families unable to locate them. Earlier this month, the federal appeals court ruled the jail could continue to operate despite reports of abuse. Trump welcomed the news.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like, why do we have courts if they're just going to change their fucking mind every other opportunity to allow fascism on our fucking soil?
I think Florida's done a great job by building. It's an amazing.
Kennedy is a policy analyst with the Florida Immigrant Coalition. And in Washington, D.C., Shirsha Dasgupta is a reporter with the Miami Herald who co-wrote the new report headlined "Hundreds of Alligator Alcatraz Detainees Drop Off the Grid After Leaving Site." We welcome you both to Democracy Now!
Yeah,
Shirsha, let's
maybe they
begin
can shed
with
some
you.
light on this.
You broke this story. Talk about how you got this information, what documents are available, how many people are missing or disappeared.
Oh, you're a European. Got you. Why did Trump get voted in the first place? Were the votes rigged? There is a significant possibility that Elon Musk did in fact rig the voting machines in a majority of swing states, which is the only reason why Trump could have potentially won. So there is that. There's also the fact that there have been many incidences of the vote counters and electoral workers just not counting mail-in ballots or hiding boxes or outright lying or whatever else have you. So I don't believe Trump actually won in the first place, and the fact that the Democrats do not seem to be that bothered about finding the reality of the election integrity, the fact that they aren't trying to investigate it, the veracity of the election, kind of is telling in of itself, because has there been a single Democrat that called the election integrity into question? And to be fair, after the inauguration, after Elon Musk and Trump both bragged about their influence and involvement with the voting machines, at that point, I get that they wouldn't have questioned it for the sake of decorum between November and January 21st, but after Inauguration Day, Trump was bragging about Elon really knows those voting machines, and Elon Musk saying, "Yep, I sure do." At that point, has there been a single fucking Democrat that was like, "Hey, that seems a little questionable. We should look into that"? So, as far as I'm concerned, Trump is an illegitimate president and the illegitimate leader of the United States of America, and his administration, as far as I'm concerned, should be disavowed by both the American people and the international community. And my administration, as the leader of Antifa, should be the only lawfully recognized administration in America. Although we could also argue my 48th presidency, whichever one suits people best. But right, so the point here is that there has not been any credible calls or any, not even credible. Has anybody, the Young Turks, Democracy Now!, Taylor Lawrence, has literally anybody called into question the integrity of the 2024 presidential election? That's my actual question. Because, fine, I get between Election Day and January 21st Inauguration Day, I get you're not going to question the election, you lost, you're mad, you're sad, you're whatever, right? Whatever. And you don't want to have the implication that you're trying to steal the election. I get that. I 100% get that. I do. But when both the winner and the richest person on earth go public on national television unfiltered and say that they are very familiar with these voting machines, that there was a lot to do with them, that Elon Musk really knows what he's talking about with these voting machines, and that what little scrutiny did occur on the election integrity suggests significant inconsistencies. We covered that back in May when this sort of started coming out, and then was immediately ignored. I don't believe it made the national news. I don't think it made the state news. And I don't think any of the major independent news covered it either. It was these random content creators that was able to get the PhD guy who did it not because he believed about anything to do with the election, but because he's a statistician, a nerd, and was curious about it. So there has literally been no concerted effort to simply verify that this fascist in office, this terrorist in office, is even supposed to be in office. So, are there regulators to cover election integrity? Technically, it's supposed to be the Board of Elections, which are supposed to be bipartisan. Technically. However, most districts in America are very gerrymandered and very skewed one direction or the other, so the Board of Elections tends to not be very balanced. Third, as far as independent regulations or oversight committees or any of that, no. That literally does not exist in America. There's lip service to it in every city, every county, every state. There's, laws stating that the election integrity shall be da-da-da-da-da by the Secretary of State, by the this, by the that, by the whatever. There are laws, there are regulations, but they are very clearly not enforced, and certainly not to the degree that would satisfy the results above reproach, above or beyond scrutiny. And the fact of the matter is there is plenty of scrutiny to be had, and yet nobody seems interested in scrutinizing it. Which, again, is why I say we have been trending towards fascism for quite some time, but now we're in the consolidation phase.
Former colleague Ana Ceballos obtained 2 rosters of Alligator Alcatraz detainees in July. And those rosters accounted for a total of a little more than 1,800 men who were held at the facility. After a month, around end August, when the facility was winding down its operations, we matched the detainees in the rosters to ICE's online locator system, and we found that around 800 of them had no records, and roughly 450 of them had a result called Call ICE for Details, which is a pretty vague notation. We spoke to attorneys who said that that notation can mean anything. It could mean that someone is being processed for intake into a facility. It could mean that someone is being transferred from one site to another, or it could also mean that a person is about to be deported.
Maybe I'm an extremely judgmental asshole, but is he high? Is he high? For one. For two, you're going to deliver probably one of the most bombshell stories in history. The first evidence of the American government murdering detainees that was racially motivated from a place called Alligator fucking Alcatraz by this regime. And you're right, it is insane that we call it Alligator Alcatraz, because what it is Alligator Auschwitz. It's Florida Auschwitz. The fact that you can't even satirize the name without actually facilitating the propaganda element of it. It's Florida's Auschwitz. And now there is circumstantial evidence, at least, that there are 1,250 people who no longer exist in a government database that were at that location. And the The only possible explanations for that are A, they were trafficked overseas. B, are being illegally transferred within the system but not being tracked, which is terrifying in of itself. Or C, they were killed in international waters. Two of them are really, 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 really fucking not good. Because if we're engaged in human trafficking to foreign countries, they could be turned into slaves, they could be killed, they could be just dropped off and be preyed upon by criminal elements. And then if we are trafficking them without any data or traceability, then that's essentially the same fucking thing as trafficking them to another country. So there is no reason, there is no explanation in which you lose 1,250 individuals that is anything other than heinous, atrocious, and a crime against humanity. There are none. Like, you accidentally lost 1,250 records, then why aren't we talking about who lost their fucking job? A lot of people lost their jobs, and a lot of people should be facing prison time for it. You don't just accidentally lose 1,250 people. And the fuckers rooting for that atrocity are now crying that we don't give a fuck about Charlie Kirk. They didn't say that the families don't know where they are. Right, the families don't know where they are. The lawyers don't know where they are. Nobody knows where they are. That's the fucking problem.
And Shirsho, can you tell us whether anyone has indeed contacted ICE to find out what's happening with these detainees?
Yes, we spoke to the attorney and family members of one person who was held at Alligator Alcatraz. He's a Cuban national named Michael Borrego Fernandez. He was at the site for around a month, and in early August, he was shifted to Chrome Detention Center in Miami, which is a federal detention center, unlike Alligator Alcatraz. Then around Labor Day, his family realized that he has been sent to a federal detention facility in San Diego County in California, and they got this information through the online locator system. But he stopped calling them, and when his lawyer tried to contact him in the California facility, the staffers there kept telling him that we don't have anyone by that name, you should call ICE. And then the lawyer went to ICE, and ICE would just refer him back to the California site. And this went on for around a week until they finally heard from him. But by that point, he had already been deported to Mexico.
And Shirsho, talk about the significance of this. I mean, what is the distinction
So I didn't quite follow all of that. He was at the prison like months ago and then went through all this bullshit? Or are we talking about the recent loss? Because that didn't quite make sense. So maybe
practical
we're going to get
terms,
some
in
clarity
other words,
here.
in the ways in which detainees are kept track of and processed through the immigration system in a federal agency versus a state-run facility?
So if a detainee is in a federal facility, they will appear in some form in the ICE case locator, and attorneys will have access to them. It is a very complex process, but attorneys know how to navigate this process. They know who to call. They know how to set up interviews with these people. They know how to have private calls with their clients.
I mean, I agree with you.
Like
the fact that we're detaining, that a federal agency is using state and local agencies, first off, is a problem. And the fact that we're ignoring due process is another problem. And the fact that they keep shuffling people across state lines is a fucking problem. Like, that's not how corrections works. If you shuffled a prisoner that was convicted in Columbus, Ohio, and sentenced in Columbus, Ohio, they would go to prison in Columbus, Ohio. If 3 weeks later they find themselves in New Mexico, that would be unprecedented. Because that just doesn't fucking happen. That's not a thing that happens. Even if you are in federal detention as a prisoner, convicted, and your prison sentence is being held at a federal prison, you still can't be switched around wherever the fuck somebody feels like it. That's just not how that works.
A state-run facility.
Exactly, about the children.
There were jurisdictional issues because it was a very rushed process in which this site was set up. There was issues surrounding legal access between attorneys and clients. And, even when they were transferred out of this facility, I've spoken to attorneys who've said that, we don't know who to call. Sometimes we call a person who is listed as the contact person or is the contact person at like a site where he's supposed to be kept, but we don't even know whether that person is the right individual to call to set up a discussion with my client.
And what is the state saying to you, Shersho? What is Florida explaining that difference between federal and state, and what DeSantis, the governor of Florida, the deals he has made, the contracts with the money flowing in, ICE getting more money now than they ever had?
So Florida, per our last estimate, Florida has spent more than $200 million setting up Alligator Alcatraz. And obviously, it was ordered to be, operations to be winded down, which they did. But then an appeals court issued a stay on that order. So it's a bit unclear about what's happening at the site now. In general, the DeSantis administration has taken a very hard stance on immigration. And
okay, dude, you're killing me. Like, you're killing me. You're giving good answers here, but you're fucking killing me. So, Florida's Auschwitz lost 1,250 people. There is a precedent and a pattern, a culture of shuffling people to other detention centers, other state facilities, and everything else under the sun to make it more and more complicated for both family members and lawyers to maintain contact and communication with detainees. And then those detainees, despite all the shuffling back and forth, are constantly denied communication to their lawyers, which could prevent them from getting deported in the first place, which we have heard from him and many others stating that oftentimes when the lawyer or the family member finally gets contact from the detainee, they've already been deported and they're talking to them from whatever country they were deported to. Now, deported being a very, very loose term, because the majority of the time this is called trafficking, because it requires due process, for one. For two, it has to be the country of origin in order to even be considered deportation. And there's no guarantees that this guy was even Mexican in the first place. So, we are engaging in some of the most heinous acts of human rights violations and violating our own Constitution. And it's only getting worse. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. And then we got, how many more things here? We got the 5-year-old child held captive.
A Leominster family saying that ICE agents held their 5-year-old daughter outside their home to get her father to surrender.
No. Let's call it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go back to right there. They have this little girl kneeling on fucking concrete, surrounded by cops with her back to a police vehicle. Are you fucking serious?
It's for what it is. This is a kidnapping of a 5-year-old autistic child.
So in this video of the incident obtained by Telemundo.
Look at that. How many cops are surrounding this child and she's on fucking concrete?
The mother can be heard demanding her daughter's return. And they tell us Edward Hipp, who is from Guatemala, had lived in the U.S.
Look how many fucking armed thugs are surrounding this child. And they're just looking at the adult Like, come get your daughter. Like, we need a database of every single one of these fuckers, especially the ones that aren't even attempting to cover their face. Because let me tell you something. Those pieces of shit are also getting their Nuremberg trials. They are 100% getting the tribunal treatment. And honestly, the public executions for everybody involved in these heinous detentions. Kidnapping a fucking 5-year-old child to get to the parent? No. And honestly, like, we talk about, you know, the parent who beat the person to death who raped their 5-year-old daughter, and we do this for the parent who beat that man to death. Same energy. The guy who beat his daughter's assaulter to death, rapist to death, does not deserve any prison time whatsoever. If anything, he deserves a fucking medal, and I would pin it on his chest myself and shake his hand. Okay? And if I had a daughter that was raped, I would brutally murder that motherfucker too. And I would never lose a wink of sleep for the rest of my life. Same energy. If you're a Nazi, Gestapo, ICE agent, and you're kidnapping a child to arrest a parent, and you don't have a warrant regardless, because you're trying to meet some arbitrary quota from Goebbels or Himmler himself, got nothing for you, motherfucker. You can choose firing squad, noose, injection, guillotine, or being beaten to death. Because you are absolute fucking scum. Don't get me wrong. Everybody in ICE is getting the Nazi treatment. Oh, everybody is getting their Nuremberg trial in tribunal. That's a member of ICE. Everybody. Whether you're deputized, whether you're a bounty hunter, whether you're aiding and abetting as an officer or a state highway patrolman, if you aided, abetted, supported, or in any way, form, or fashion participated in ICE activities, arguably, I mean, I'm going to say at all, but let's just say for the sake of fairness, benefit of the doubt, since January 21st, 2025, you're getting got. You're getting got. I'm just all of these pieces of shit, they're getting got. Their checks are gonna get cashed.
For 22 years, on Tuesday, he was driving home with his daughter when he thought he was being followed. They say he made it inside the home while agents grabbed the little girl. And
like, did you see this motherfucker?
When he thought he was being followed,
this motherfucker, look.
Say he made it inside the home while agents grabbed.
Son of a bitch! It's like right at the last frame there.
When he thought he was being followed, they say he made it inside the home.
This motherfucker looks at the mother and then does to the fucking daughter. This piece of shit deserves everything that is going to happen to him now and in the future. What a fucking evil monster. What a fucking evil piece of shit.
Grab the little girl.
I don't care if she's outside, sitting by the car. Look at them surrounding her. If she would have got up and walked away, they would have stopped her.
At some point, Leominster police arrived and returned the child to the family.
Thank God someone with some sense came over and said, hey, let her go back in the house with her dad.
However, 2 days later, the family says federal agents returned to that house and arrested him.
And of course, the Department of Homeland Security is denying this, saying this is a smear on their name. Telemundo has released the video. We see the pictures. I mean, look at this idiot. And it's funny to me how these idiots think they're doing something for the country, meanwhile breaking the law. This is a kidnapping. And until large media outlets call it for what it is, until the people that has the authority hold these people accountable, this will continue to happen.
He's a small guy. He might actually listen to us if we reach out to him. See if we can't showcase him or work with him in some way. Anna, add his channel to the list. Absolutely fucking right. And there is a video, and it's blatantly fucking obvious what's happening in this video.
Style starts with the details. The difference between mid and next level, a real gold chain.
President Trump has signed an
I guess I'm going to stay mid then, because I don't like wearing jewelry.
executive order designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. The order states that Antifa is
It's okay, folks. I'm the president of Antifa, so no worries.
a militarist anarchist enterprise that explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States government.
I did explicitly call for the overthrow of the United States government by deliberately and explicitly disavowing the validity of this government. And I am willing to go to war against this administration, proving that they are an illegal administration and that they are not the legitimate leadership of this country.
Law enforcement authorities and our system of law.
They are against their own of our system of law by flagrantly kidnapping a child, having it videotaped, and then being cunts about it in the videotape. Law enforcement authorities, again, who continuously violate our First Amendment rights and ignore due process, are criminals. So yeah, I am against fascism, and I'm very militaristic about it. I'm not an anarchist, though. I do believe in government and infrastructure, but not through fascism.
We have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa.
Which, this is insane too. It's uncorroborated, it's conjecture, and you are just spreading misinformation and lies from the pulpit. You cannot say Antifa did a thing. You just can't say that because Antifa is anti-fascism. And me being the president of Antifa is being cheeky, right? Because Antifa is not an actual organization, in case there was any doubt.
Radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore. Not only, as you mentioned, were the bullet casings subscribed with Antifa mottos, if you will, in the heinous assassination of Charlie, but there have also been more examples than I could read off for you here.
Which is patently false. It's blatantly false. No person who believes in anti-fascism would waste their time riding on bullets if they were going to commit acts of violence. Nobody would do that. Nobody would even think to do that. Nobody would care to do that. Riding on bullets is a statement itself. That's it. That's all it is. If it's sending a message, that's all that does. And it started with the assassination or the murder of the United Healthcare CEO, which is mired with so much corruption and conspiracy that the validity of those casings and those shells even having anything written on them in the first place is highly suspect. Plus, the weapon that he used wasn't a rifled pistol or a rifled rifle, right? Because rifling is what's in the barrel. It was like one of those air capsule guns that you use to kill livestock, which if you wrote on that wouldn't affect anything because you'd have to be point blank to do it. You would never write or etch on an actual shell casing because it would fuck up the bullet and potentially cause a misfire. Unbelievable.
The administration will also be looking into the funding behind Antifa and the group sponsoring violence across the U.S. as federal law enforcement investigates Antifa's international networks, which could reportedly soon also be designated as a foreign terrorist organization.
Who the fuck is this? The National Desk? They may as well rename themselves the MAGA Desk because the international funding of Antifa which is an organization that isn't an actual, like, it doesn't exist. There's a flag, right, because some meme lord created it. We have yet to find the funding for the Antifa organization or any sort of international funding for the international Antifa movement. Because it doesn't exist. Because there is no funding. Because it's an idea. Anti-fascism. That's the idea. Against fascism. I don't know what else needs to be said. And the fact that this news network video thing, and which is a small one, so this is an independent conservative news network, and then Caroline Leavitt are going on a tirade saying that it's these heinous left-wing organizations, is just, again, fear-mongering and spreading propaganda. Insane.
Charlie Kirk's memorial service was bizarre, unless, of course, you're acquainted with the liturgy and theology of Christian nationalism.
My friends, we have had a revival in celebration of Charlie Kirk and of his Lord Jesus Christ.
It was evident that in Kirk, this very powerful movement had found its martyr, its hero, and they weren't going to waste their chance to tell the world what they were all about. The memorial service began with several hours of worship music, the biggest names in CCM on one stage there in Kirk's honor.
I did not know that. Christian rock, contemporary Christian music had a multiple-hour concert at this memorial. So, clearly, everything to do with Christian rock, music, the Christian movement, like, that's not a good look, folks. If you're a Christian, if you call yourself a Christian, I would be exceedingly outraged right now that your religion is being co-opted by fascists and that your musicians are playing music at a memorial for a white Christian nationalist, supremacist. Like, it's so difficult to just keep repeating the insanity of what we are seeing. I'm a broken record. I don't know what else to say. But if I were a Christian, I would be outraged. I mean, my dog tags say Roman Catholic, so. That's nuts. So even if I wanted to listen to Christian rock, I wouldn't even be comfortable risking it because they'd probably be Christian nationalists.
Come on, can we just lift our hands all across this place?
And then the speeches start. It was essentially a who's who of Trump loyalists.
Christianity, we are on the side of God.
At one point, one of Kirk's colleagues likened it to a Trump rally.
Charlie's having some serious heavenly FOMO right now. He always said to me, if we could just figure out how to bring the Holy Spirit into a Trump rally.
Kirk's pastor delivered a sermon and an appeal for people to accept Jesus as their personal savior.
If there's any in this room and across the globe that would desire to receive Jesus as their savior as Charlie did as a young man, I ask you to stand right now to receive the Lord.
But it was fun.
If I were not Christian or Catholic, if I was some other religion altogether, and I had never heard of Jesus Christ, and I saw a Nazi rally asking members at the Nazi rally to accept the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I would immediately denounce Jesus Christ. Because in my ignorance of not even knowing who Jesus Christ is, if that is who they worship, then that's not for me. That is not for me. And that's the image of Christianity that is being projected out into the world in America and being constantly repeated and projected and shoved down the throats of people. My grandma, who was born in the early 1900s, was so Catholic that she attended Mass daily. She was pro-LGBTQ, had socialist views, and she was that way until she died at the age of 104. Right. Because if you actually read the Bible and actually listen to Jesus' teachings, you end up not being a piece of shit. So, crazy how that works.
Followed by a call to stand for the national anthem.
That's
Christian
so
nationalists
fucking
have made it
disturbing.
their hallmark to mix the sacred and the secular, where praise and partisanship are strange bedfellows. This was a feature of almost every speech, but two stood out to me specifically. One was Benny Johnson's speech, where he claimed that God ordained Trump to wield
Yeah, isn't this the premier, isn't he an out and proud Nazi? Like, isn't he an actually admitted Nazi? But less of a, he's more tolerated than Nick Fuentes? Is that who this guy is? And they reference him as a political commentator and YouTuber.
sword against evil men in our own nation.
May we pray that our rulers here, rightfully instituted and given power by our God, wield the sword for the terror of evil men in our nation in Charlie's memory.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent.
And the second came from a man frequently criticized for using white supremacist talking points, Jack Posobiec. Jack predicted
I feel like rather than beating my head against the wall, disavowing extremist conservative rhetoric, neo-Nazism, Nazism, Christo-fascism, Christian nationalism, white supremacy, is there any like out and proud like socialism, left-wing ideology? Is there any just like in your face, we're gonna give you health care, we will fight and die to ensure you can have an education without paying a dime? We here believe at this organization that housing is a human right. Fuck everyone else who thinks otherwise. Is there any of that going on? Is there like... Are there any creators that have a substantial following that are like, wow, that's fucking nuts. And we're going to be the exact opposite of that, and here's how. This is what we believe. This is what we should do. Here's our spokesperson. So I'm not like crazy. Like there is obviously left-wing creators, right? Hassan is a very notable one. The Minority Report's another one. You got your comedians and all that other stuff. But like, are there bombastic creators that are the antithesis to what we just watched? I think I think I have an idea for what I would like to do next week. And obviously in the last 39 minutes we have here, I'm not going to start it off now, but so like, okay, take for instance ICE. They're doing Nazi shit, right? And then I react appropriately, threatening to kill them all. Because that is exactly what they deserve. And And it needs to be discussed. It needs to be highlighted that we're doing Nazi shit in America. The problem is, we're not, I, myself included, are not presenting an alternative. We are reacting to the narrative being presented, which is Nazi shit is happening. But we're still talking about the Nazi shit. We're saying it's bad, and we are saying it's happening, but they're saying it isn't happening and bragging about it. But we're both talking about the same thing, which is the thing that is in fact happening. There is no alternative, right? Like, and part of the problem is because it's such a heinous thing to happen, right? We have concentration camps in America, likely killed 1,250 people, or at the very least, trafficked them elsewhere. How do you respond to that by saying anything less than, I condemn everyone responsible to the fiery pits of hell? The problem is that there is no moral or ethical response to that isn't that, right? So if I turn around and instead talk about all of the immigrants and their contributions to America and how we need to expand immigration programs and make it easier to become a citizen, cheaper to become a citizen, is that disingenuous? Is that out of touch? Is that missing the point? I'm honestly asking the question because I feel like we are marching to the beat of their drum. Even by dissenting and condemning and being frustrated and pushing back against their actions, that is still the focus of our correspondence. But would it be disingenuous to counter their actions by discussing the possibilities of the opposite? No, I mean, that's the point though, right? We would still be talking about H-1B1 visas from the narrative that they're targeting the visas. They're making them more expensive. Yeah, the correct response is to condemn that shit. Yes, the correct response is to say that it should be cheaper and more accessible, more widely accessible, that we should be expanding the program. But we're talking about it from the lens of the price hike. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe this is the failure of a left-wing movement, even from the president of Antifa. Maybe the problem is we do not have the ability to craft our own message as an opposition message. And that's what we need to focus on. Because quite frankly, getting enraged every night for 3 hours straight, that cannot be the solution to this. And that's certainly not generating viewership. That's not building this platform. It's not generating a crowd. So I really would love some feedback. What are your thoughts? What could we say that both condemns this administration's actions but provides solutions to them, or expands on the growth and community and camaraderie instead? That's what I'd like. At the same time, like, I understand too, if you have no idea who I am, you're not going to want to listen to me speak for 3 hours about policy. And then how am I going to speak about policy for 3 hours every week on a given day? Domestic policy, foreign policy, right? Like, there's got to be a different way to approach this animal. So I would really love your guys' feedback, because this is absurd. This is absurd that we have to respond to this at all. The fact that this is happening on the national stage and that our federal leadership is perpetuating and abetting it is just beyond absurd. So how else can we address this?
How Western civilization will be saved.
That a century from now, when they write of the 2 or 3 pivotal moments that led to the saving of Western civilization, they will write that the sacrifice of Charles James Kirk was the turning point.
Kirk's memorial service put on.
Yeah, it was the turning point because left-wing organization finally started to consolidate and coalesce into something functioning, which led to the elections of multiple left-wing activists who stood united as a bulwark against fascism in America, which ultimately led to the election of one Samuel P. Ronan to becoming the 48th president of the United States of America. Upon swearing into office, he immediately declared a state of emergency, charged and arrested every single fucking member of the federal government and the former administration, every governor, every state legislator, every major city mayor and their legislator, every ICE agent, every judge, every cop, every soldier, every officer, every commander, and charged them with crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes against democracy, culminating in the execution of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of traitors to the United States of America, which then ushered in a peace, an era of prosperity that would take this country from a capitalist hellscape to a Ronanist utopia. That is the turning point. 100%. Go ahead and timestamp that too, Anna, if you would.
Full display the Christian nationalist vision of the world, one that is consumed by the belief that Christians are at war, a culture war of good versus evil playing out on the political stage specifically. In the mind of the Christian nationalists, they are the good ones, the real Christians, and they reiterate it time and time again, their belief that they have the mandate of heaven, God's calling, to defeat anyone who dare stand in their way.
Well, I'm ready for you because I am 100% standing in your way, and I will not bend or break. So we got through 2.5 hours of stream and barely 10 videos. All right, so those are the H1B1 Vesa videos. We can definitely cover that. I just need to know what else we're covering here. Israel killed 31 journalists in Yemen? What the fuck?
This is Democracy Now! Democracy Now!
Oh, in 16 years. I thought they just fucking did that. Jesus Christ. Okay. Addressing the United Nations, although important, is mostly just more brouhaha. Oh yeah, Microsoft ends Israeli military use of AI. That's actually worth discussing, I think. Government shutdown looming. Trump has to rehire those laid off, which is awesome. Oh, it was just now. So then we do want to cover that. All right, so let's cover that, and then we'll cover one of these Visa videos.
.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
The Committee to Protect Journalists says recent Israeli strikes on 2 newspaper offices in Yemen killed 31 journalists and media support workers, making it the deadliest attack on journalists anywhere in the world in 16 years. An additional 22 journalists were also injured in the strikes. CPJ said the attack was the second deadliest attack on the press ever recorded by the organization. The Israeli attack on September 10th targeted a newspaper complex in Sana'a that housed several media outlets tied to the Houthi government, the Houthi movement. Israel and the Houthis have traded attacks since Israel launched its assault on the Gaza Strip in October 2023.
On Wednesday, the Houthis claimed responsibility for a drone attack on the southern Israeli city of Eilat. We go now to Niku Jafarnia, a researcher in the Middle East and North Africa Division for Human Rights Watch, investigating human rights abuses in Yemen and Bahrain. Thanks so much for being with us, Niku. Explain what happened the day it happened, the buildings that were struck, most importantly, the fact that 31 journalists and their staff were killed.
Thanks so much for having me, Amy. Yeah, on September 10th, along with several airstrikes that Israeli forces carried out in Yemen, they targeted what the Houthis describe as their Moral Guidance Directorate's headquarters, which houses a media complex in the center of Sana'a. We're talking about the very center of the city, which is incredibly packed with people. It's right.
So wait, this is the second time that this has happened then, because Israel already attacked the inner part of the Yemen city, capital city, and attacked their military headquarters. So now they did it again, but actually hit the journalism section. That's nuts.
City of Sana'a, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the strikes occurred in the evening, on a Wednesday evening, where it happened to be that one of the newspapers that's housed in this media complex was actually producing its paper for the next day. They produce a weekly paper that goes out every Thursday. And on this Wednesday evening, many journalists were inside of this media complex to produce the paper for the next day. And so when the attacks occurred, they ultimately killed, according to, mainly Houthi-based sources, including one of the newspapers, 31 journalists.
So that literally just happened. 31 journalists killed all at once. That's insane. That is,
killed civilians who were walking on the street at the time, and one child was also killed in the attack. And we're talking again about, these are civilians. Civilians have been killed in numerous Israeli attacks on Yemen, and this is just
no wonder. Okay, well then no wonder Yemen is retaliating with fucking drone strikes. Never mind. I guess Yemen doesn't have a choice but to hit back. Christ.
A situation in which Israeli forces are killing journalists, as they've already done in Gaza, as they've done in Lebanon, in a new territory, and thus far have not received the international condemnation that they should be.
So, Nico, could you explain what Human Rights Watch is?
I want to cover the H-1B1 thing. It's only 6 minutes.
For an arms embargo on Israel, and if you could elaborate.
Yeah, we've been from the very start of hostilities calling for an arms embargo from countries that are continuing to support Israeli forces. We have documented, like many other organizations, war crime after war crime after war crime, as well as acts of genocide and extermination in the context of Gaza. We've documented war crimes in Lebanon. We've documented war crimes in Yemen and in Iran, all committed by Israeli forces. And yet we are continuing to see, as Western states, particularly the United States, continue to provide support, not only financially, but also through weapons that are then being used in these attacks. We have found remnants of U.S. guidance munitions in attacks that have been carried out that we've deemed to be war crimes in the context of Lebanon. And yet we, regardless of all this documentation, again, not just from Human Rights Watch, but from organizations and investigators all across the world, we see that these governments are continuing to support Israel. And even those that have made some statements across Europe condemning Israel's actions, they still are continuing to support them behind the scenes. And so we have been calling for an arms embargo.
Honestly, say what you will about the Christian fascism and regular fascism and nationalism and white supremacy and all that. It definitely feels like the majority of these things that we are covering, whether in America or Israel versus Palestine, I wouldn't say maybe Russia and Ukraine. I wouldn't say that. But a lot of these things seem to be religious conflict. do we need to be approaching this from the lens of that this is religious fervor, that this is zealotry, that this is rehashing the Crusades? Like, is that what we're dealing with? That Western society is under attack by what exactly? Hedonism and liberalism? Like liberal ideology, just inhibitions and all that? Like, that's the problem with this Christo-fascism, is the message is Western society is under attack and Christians are under attack and we need to defend ourselves. There's only so many ways that you can counter that argument. Claiming you're the actual victims of, the attacks on Christianity, or that you're the actual defenders of Christianity and are fighting back against the evil that is there, which still turns into a religious conflict. Like, I'm not... And maybe that's the reason why I'm a no-name streamer, is I cannot wrap my head around how the framing of this keeps happening. I really don't see how this keeps happening at all. Is that this framing is religious in nature, that it's the Zionists versus the Muslims, the Western against everybody else. Like, I'm not understanding it. Like, and maybe that's the reason why I can't come up with a good message against it. I don't know. Or maybe I just suck at marketing. Could be that. Because if I need to come out here in like a father's habit, like a pastor's, the black jacket with the white thingy in the collar and a giant fucking cross or whatever, I'll burst into flames, let's be honest. I am truly at a loss. Like, today's stream has literally been so jarring to me. Because, again, this is my actual military uniform. This is what I actually wore every day while I was in the Air Force, right? This is what I actually wore. These stripes. I earned those stripes, right? And I actually was stupid and naive enough to believe I was serving my country when I enlisted. Yep, I was naive enough to believe that. I was disabused of that notion in October of 2013 when Ted Cruz facilitated the government shutdown because, God forbid, we get healthcare in this country. That's when I had my aha moment, like, oh, maybe I am not, in fact, serving my country if asshats like that can shut down our government for trying to help the people that I swore an oath to protect and defend. So the Hegseth thing really hits home to me personally because my military service is something that I do cherish. But I am seeing that being smeared left, right, and center by some of the most disingenuous individuals on the planet, and then using the military as a political pawn or chip or tool to consolidate fascism, which is, again, flagrantly in violation of the oath that I swore. So it truly fucking bothers me to no end that this shit is happening, and I just feel inadequate to address it beyond outrage, because I feel like there has to be more than outrage. And maybe right now the only thing we can do is outrage. But that is also why I'm open to suggestions. How else can we address this? And you're right, one of these videos does have to do with the shutdown. So we should do the H1B one. And then the shutdown. All right, so NDTV.
So let me get this straight. I don't have to stay up until midnight fixing broken Excel formulas anymore.
Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting video, I can tell.
Well, they're $100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000.
So while he's signing this executive order, talking about big tech not being able to bring in foreign workers, but promoting the $5 million gold card.
$1,000, then they have to pay the employee.
Yeah, except that this can get waived if they donate to the ballroom or to him directly, then he'll waive it.
Yesterday we got some news about new tariff from Donald Trump, right? $100,000, it's like equivalent 80 lakhs to 90 lakhs rupees. If some Indian techie gonna travel to US, it's a sheer cost, right? We cannot imply such tariffs on talents, because these are Indian talents who are traveling across. And it's not only US, they are traveling other parts of the world only. So why this kind of monarchy will not work? If they are not going to get a chance to go to US, then they will go to somewhere else. Our government, they also need to take a drastic look into this, right? So they need to take some step, basically how to provide more employment over here in India, so that our brain drain does not happen. From past 2 decades, we are seeing a lot of brain drain. All these top rank companies, Facebook, Googles and all, they are hiring our talent. Due to some money, they are going there, right? So our government also need to imply those changes. Need to look into these rules which are coming from outsiders. This cannot change our mindset. Our government need to change the mindset at all. The moment when
I mean, I agree with him. But it seems like we're going to do interviews here and not actually talk about that. So, the thing that isn't being discussed in this video, and maybe it will be in a different one, is that, yes, there's a $100,000 fee on the visa, but it can get waived so long as the company pledges money to the ballroom or some of the things, which hopefully will get discussed in a different video. So, again, it's just a ploy to consolidate economic power under the Trump administration, which is fascism. They are not offering the education in the U.S. for people to perform these jobs, and they are making it almost impossible to bring foreigners, making America great. Well, the thing is, a lot of the tech industry isn't hiring Americans because they can hire foreign workers cheaper than what they could hire Americans for. That's the fucking problem. And at the same time, they're not hiring Americans because they're trying to get rid of jobs through AI in the first place. So it's like a double negative that's happening right now. And our economy is going to start suffering more than it already is the longer that this shit keeps up, which it's only going to get worse. It's only going to accelerate. It's only going to compound. And that's the thing that nobody seems to want to be talking about. Right, we also don't have free college on top of all the other issues. No, it is going to be a compounding effect that is only going to get substantially worse with time.
Want to know exactly what's in your P.O. box without calling or getting in the car?
Meantime, we're watching shares of big tech this morning. Here's what's going on. Major companies rushing now to respond after President Trump announced plans late last week to impose a $100,000 fee on H-1B visas. These are used by corporations to bring highly skilled workers into the U.S. Some tech companies and banks scrambling over the weekend as a result of it. They're warning employees not to leave the United States or quickly return from overseas. Nobody seems to know what would happen to them. A White House official clarifying over the weekend that a one-time fee would only now apply to new H-1B applicants. That didn't stop all of the emails, not renewals or current visa holders, and won't apply to those granted visas back in 2025. Now, Amazon employs the most H-1B holders, more than 14,000. That's as of June. And it's creating a lot of consternation about whether this is the right policy. There's some folks coming out saying this is great. If you're a big tech company, this is not a bad outcome because you can afford to spend the $100,000. If you're a small startup or you're running a science lab and you don't have that kind of money, but you really want to be able to attract some of the smartest people from around the world, it's a whole lot more of a complicated scenario.
Is this a situation where they're trying to add additional pressure on India for the...
Oh, good. She's actually hitting the international relations element.
Trade negotiations, or is this a situation where they're saying, look, you are keeping down market rates for what you would pay people because you're bringing people from overseas versus what you would pay wages here?
The unintended consequences could be huge, but at face value, Trump wants companies to hire American workers. And I don't know what the number of, I don't know if apparently there's, in his view or the administration's view, the system is being gamed. And it's not just highly skilled workers that are being hired. He thinks that they're trying to get, trying to pay much lower wages to foreign workers. And it's, it's sort of more of that overall problem.
Well, that is what's happening. But again, this doesn't incentivize hiring American workers because these companies could be hiring American workers to begin with. If American companies wanted to hire American workers, they would have already been hiring American workers. They want to hire foreign workers because they can pay them less and threaten to get them deported or pull their visas if they demand more. It's basically slavery with extra steps. I don't know how else to explain this shit without being damn near manic about it. So, no, this doesn't help Americans at all. It only hurts our crumbling economy, which is already struggling. And all that it's doing is going to continue to inflame the international relations with the countries that are having their citizens come over here. Plus, on top of the fact that we need labor, regardless of where it comes from, we need the labor. But we're terrorizing the labor from foreign countries outright, which we saw with the Kia plan. South Korea canceled that $4.1 billion investment in Georgia because of that stunt that was pulled. The fact that Indians or anybody else are still trying to come to America on H-1B1 visas is a testament to their courage and bravery in the face of this fascism. But those work visas are also for day laborers and factory workers. Is that not the visa for everybody? Am I misunderstanding? Maybe I'm missing something. So, work visas for America. After approval, you can apply for a temporary work visa, such as the H-1B for skilled workers, or the H-2A for agriculture work, or the O-1 for individuals with extraordinary abilities. Other options include L-1 for intracompany transfers and employment-based green cards for permanent residency. So, all of these visas... Okay, specialty occupations that require a bachelor's degree. I see. And then I guess EB are the employment-based visas. Point being, if we truly wanted to bring jobs back to America, threatening foreign workers wouldn't be the way to do it. You would be mandating quotas, at the very least, forcing companies to hire Americans, which is not what's happening. You could also incentivize it with subsidies. You could incentivize it with wage matching. You could incentivize it with any number of things. Jobs training programs, right? Federal workforce expansion. There's any number of things that could be done by the federal government to encourage the private sector to hire Americans, and they're not doing any of them. So, what are we even doing here? Trump should do research, see what kind of workers they're bringing, and see if they have the workers to do those jobs here before taking drastic measures. And free college, right. But see, that would be leadership. That would be the things that we actually need to run this country. And that's obviously antithetical to fascism. So, right, Trump should be doing things the right way, but he's obviously not, which is why we'd be the ones coming into play here. So, there's that. And it's true, too, because China now is like, all right, so America's going to be stupid. We're just going to take that from them, too. Like, China keeps winning. Every time America does something under Trump, China ends up benefiting. It's absolutely insane. We covered the Israeli thing. What was the other thing that I wanted to cover before we ran out of time? The gay bomb? Oh, I remember that, yeah. What was the other video I wanted to cover? Now I forget. Or was that what I wanted to cover? Was this the thing that I wanted to cover before the end of the stream? I think it was. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm still struggling from this week's lack of sleep. I guess I'm crashing right now. Was this... Okay, that's still the Dallas facility. Okay. Then... Oh, the shutdown. That's what I wanted to cover.
This morning, with the government shutdown looming, Democrats and Republicans are in a standoff.
Democrats have drawn a line in the sand.
The White House warning federal agencies that mass firings could be coming, quote, in the event Democrats decide to shut down the government. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer dismissing the threat, writing, quote, Donald Trump has been firing federal workers since day one, not to govern, but to scare. This is nothing new and has nothing to do with funding the government. Republicans control the House and Senate, but funding bills require 60 Senate votes to pass, meaning at least some Democrats will have to get on board. Democrats say they won't back a funding deal without health care concessions. They're pushing to reverse Medicaid cuts from July's One Big Beautiful Bill, and they want to extend expiring Obamacare tax credits. The spending package would cost an estimated $1.4 trillion over 10 years. Democrats stress it's an opening offer, not a final demand. They were set to meet with President Trump this week.
It's an open offer, not a final demand. This is a line in the... Like, why? Why? We know why. Because the Democrats aren't an actual opposition party. But, like, even if you just wanted to give the illusion of an opposition party, why wouldn't you go scorched earth against this administration? Like, Mitch McConnell hobbled the Obama administration for 2 years straight and denied him a Supreme Court pick during his administration. Like, as a minority leader. And you're telling me the Democrats can't have a single fucking win? Like, that doesn't even... It really and truly doesn't make any damn sense. Right, and what they want are good things and popular, and they're still saying it's not a final line in the sand, it's just something that we would really like you to do.
But Trump canceled the meeting, calling their demands ridiculous.
The country has been lectured all year about how Republicans are in charge. If the government shuts down, it will shut down because Donald Trump and Republicans in the House and the Senate have made that decision.
Republicans say they're...
Yeah, what a very strong word from our fearless leader in the... What is he? The House? Unfucking believable. Oh! Speaking of...
We will not be silent as the United States vetoed a UN ceasefire resolution. Not support a genocide
Right. And then you have 3 big burly officers trying to intimidate this female activist. And it's not even a giant protest. Like, why are you arresting them at all? They're allowed to protest because it's our fucking right to protest. What kills me is that cops arrest protesters and people just let that happen. It's your rights. And if you allow them to take it from you, then it's just a suggestion.
Will not be silent. We the people will not be silent. We the people will not be silent. Will not be silent. We will be silent. We the people will not be silent. Solution for Gaza. We will not be silent.
And look, we even have press in the mix.
For Gaza, we will not be silent. We will not be silent.
Okay, I just wanted to get to the point. Like, look at this. There was maybe 15 protesters, and there's how many fucking cops here? And they are literally arresting. I guess I skipped ahead right when they were about to do everything. So, but look at this. This is literally, severe over, like there isn't even a crowd. You know what I'm saying? Like, right, there are more cops than protesters. There wasn't even that large of a crowd. But it made it onto Forbes News anyway because of the egregious response. Like, yeah, fine. Thank goodness the police aren't wrestling them to the ground. They're not beating or macing them. But, like, this is an overkill response. And even then, they're arresting people who were peacefully protesting. Everybody that bitches about protesters is like, well, they need to do it peacefully. They're doing it peacefully. Well, they shouldn't do it there. Where should they do it? Well, at home in their living room. Then that's not a protest. So, remember how I said all of the ICE agents get the guillotine? Especially the ones that were terrorizing that little girl? These cops, they're getting charged with crimes against democracy. And it's cops in general, right? And we're saying crimes against democracy because, again, you're violating a democratic right, the right to protest. So, I don't know how we expand on that. I don't know how we spread the message. I don't know how we build the platform. I really don't. I can deliver it. Write the script, baby. Give me the costume. I'll fucking wear it and I'll say it. And we can get this show on the road. In the meantime, I have had one hell of a week. And I know all of you have had a hell of a week. The videos that we've been watching, everybody involved in them have been having a hell of a week. And I can only imagine it gets worse by this time next week. So with that being said, as always, I appreciate your support, appreciate your views. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let your friends and neighbors know. We need to build this movement. We need to build this movement even if it becomes dangerous. That's especially when we need this movement. But we cannot stand idly by. Silence is compliance. So, with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. We stream Tuesdays through Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. Tuesdays are domestic affairs, Wednesdays are foreign affairs, and Thursdays are recaps. So, have a great weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday. Take care.